What's happening? It is Jake from Nimbus DevOps, and I'm here today to talk to you about return values. Oh yeah, let's see, return values. Okay, this is one of the things where Python does really well. Um, it's not the same as other languages, so just remember that this is a Pythonic thing. You can return a tuple, you can return all kinds of stuff. Which is kind of nice because it gives you the opportunity to return something much more complex in a much simpler way compared to other languages. Um, and you can have as many as you want. You can have as many return statements as you want. So essentially, what we're saying is we want to take a value. We've been passing arguments to our functions, but now, we've been printing everything, but now we want to return something. So let's start out with just something simple. So we're going to define a function that takes no arguments or any argument, and we're just going to say pass. What the heck does that mean? So function. So the return of this func. There we go. The return of this call won't be collected. It's completely lost, right? It's lost like 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. If I said a equals function and I print a, what do you think is going to happen? I wonder. So let's try this. So Python return pi. None. So the return of this one is instead passed into a. So if I print a, it's going to print none. So the whole body of this function is basically just a pass statement. So official Python docs say pass is a null operation. When it's executed, nothing happens. But it is useful as a placeholder when a statement's syntactically required, but no code needs to be executed. So in other languages, you have to indicate a whole bunch of stuff, and there's like scope things, but we won't get into that. So if you look at the first call of function, okay, it returns the value none that we don't collect. So as we mentioned before, collecting the return value of a function is not mandatory. And that's fine, but we could write something a little bit more interesting. And you remember an example that I did where we did factorials before. So let's check this out. So if I define a function called factorial and I pass a number n, and I'll say if n in 0, 1, okay, I want to return 1. And then I'm going to define a result, and it will just be n. And I'm going to say for k in range 2 n, result times equals k, and then I want to return the result. I did a lot of stuff there. All right, and then I'm just going to say f5 for factorial 5, and I'm just going to call factorial with 5 like this and see what happens. So I'm not printing anything, right? I'm not printing anything. So I'm just saying, okay, I have 5. So if 5 in 0, 1, return 1. So that did not happen, right? So then result is going to be set to 5, and it's going to say for k in range, and k is just whatever, an iterable object, in range 2, comma 5, result is times equals k. Okay. So let's take a look at what that does. What does that do? It returns nothing. So we have 2 points to return. If neither one is n or 0 or 1, then we're going to return 1. Otherwise, we perform some calculation and then we return the variable result. So in order to make this a little easier to read, I'm going to make this much simpler, but I just wanted to explain what I'm doing. So I'm going to say from Factorials import reduce, and then Factorials import reduce, and then I'm going to say from operator import mul, and then I'm going to say define factorial with an argument n, and I'm going to return reduce mul range 1, and then n plus 1, 1, call, let's see, f5 equals factorial 5. So this would be a, I don't need that. This would be a shorter version of doing that. That's much more succinct, very concise, right? So it's even kind of readable if you know what reduce and mul do. You should check out the help function too, which is kind of nice. Help open parenthesis, close parenthesis, which can help out a lot with this. But you can look these up in documentation and understand the code written by another person in a task that everyone needs to perform, which is kind of nice. So if I run this, obviously it's going to return something, but it's not going to print anything. But if I did say print F5, you can actually see it does return 5, which would be 1 times 2 times 3, which is 6, times 4, which is 24, times 5, which is 120. So this is a way, instead of like printing something, we're always printing things inside of functions. You can get used to returning a value. So I need to take an input or an argument, and then I'm going to perform some sort of operation on it inside of a function and return that value to some variable. And then I can print the variable, I can store the variable, I can do whatever I want with the variable. So this is a very, very common thing, and so learning about return is very important. There's also a way to return multiple values. So it's actually really easy in Python, which is crazy. So the sky's the limit. So I'm going to take this really cool function that we just made, delete it, and I'm going to make another one called mod div, and I'm going to pass an a and a b value. And all I'm going to say is I need you to return a mod b and then a divided by b. That's it. That's all I want you to do. And then I'm just going to print, and this is a shorthand version of this. Instead of calling the number, storing it to a variable, and then printing it like I did last time, I'm just going to print, and then inside go mod div, and I'm going to call this and pass 27, and you're going to see what this does. 2, 6. So 20 modulo 7 is 2, because 7 times 2 is 14, and there's a remainder of 6, and so that would be 6 there. So there you go. You have your mod div, so it would be 2 remainder 6 would be the answer if you want to look at that that way. So I hope this helps. You can return multiple values, like I said, and we talked about just kind of the basics of return. There's not much to it. So let me know if you have any questions, and if not, then we're going to move on.